Highlighting errors in punctuation is a passion-filled affair for language critics, and the ABC is no exception to the rule. But the many rules of the English language can be confusing and convoluted, and in some cases unnecessary. The apostrophe has come under the microscope of ABC language researcher Tiger Webb.
Punctuation misuse is often going to strike people as pretty full-on because it's visible. I mean, it's hard to get upset about some grammatical stuff because word order is, to an extent, invisible, but punctuation is always there, and the apostrophe is just crying out, begging to be corrected, I think, by many with that inclination. But this all started when I had a complaint about this TV show on the ABC called Arne's Brush with Fame, and that is Arne apostrophe S, it's possessive, and someone complained in saying, but hang on, how can you, illiterate folk at the ABC, put an apostrophe there? How dare you? And I thought, no, that's right, it should be there. It's a possessive apostrophe. How come you think it's wrong? And I looked into sort of the history of commentary about apostrophe, and it turns out for most of its history in English, no one's really been totally certain about how to use it. And many people, even decades ago, predicted that it might one day outlive its usefulness to speakers and we might get rid of it entirely.
So this is not a recent phenomenon. It's not like the misuse is getting worse, is it? Or
that kind of stuff, incredibly difficult to quantify. People always think it's getting worse. People love interacting with language, particularly English, and saying, oh, back in my day it was perfect and nobody ever made mistakes about the genitive form. But I mean, I've seen newspaper reports from Australia to the 1930s saying, what are you journalists and sub-editors doing to the poor apostrophe? And that was coming up on 100 years ago now.
So getting to the crux of it, apostrophes are essentially for ownership, as you outlined, and for missing letters. Is that basically what we're looking at?
Yeah, two main jobs. So contraction, as in don't, shan't, won't, that kind of thing, and also possession. They're the two main big jobs it does. For hundreds of years, the apostrophe wasn't used to do either job. So if you look in some Shakespearean manuscripts or other 16th and 17th century English artefacts, you'll see words like don't without an apostrophe.
So it hasn't always been part of the English language. It was just...
Oh no, we nicked it from French types.
Right, so at some point in time we just took it, but...
Yeah, we took it as a sort of, again, for typesetters used it to mark the omission of letters in the 16th century, I think. But, so it does contraction, it does possession, but it didn't always do those things. And so, like I said, if you look in English texts from the 16th, 17th, even up to the 18th century, you might see it used in ways that it definitely wasn't used today. I know one big bugbear for people is the word its. Pronouns don't, or some pronouns don't take apostrophes to indicate possession, so its doesn't take an apostrophe. But there are texts written by usage commentators in the 18th century that say its should have an apostrophe in it, which is very different, very alien to how you or I might write it today.
So, should we ditch them? You think that is the case?
Look, I think if we ditched them, the actual amount of ambiguity caused would be not really anything to write home about. And funnily enough, so do lots of other expert linguists and grammarians. Robert Birchfield, who edited the Oxford English Dictionary for, I think, about 20, 30 years in the 80s, said that the apostrophe was only ever a moderately useful device, and perhaps it had outlived its purpose.
And so if we've got apostrophes on the chopping block, so to speak, what would your other main thing that you would like to see go from the English language?
It's not up to me, it's up to everyone. We all use language. But I would like to see people get a little bit less worked up about the Oxford comma. I think people think it's great because it has the word Oxford in front of it, but really it's an okay device that sometimes makes things a bit less ambiguous.